Hi there, boys and girls. Here we are to do the math page for Tuesday, April 14th. So it's math boxes 3-9, and you'll see the page number 62 at the bottom. So for the first math box, they want you to count on by fives starting at 175, okay? So if you remember, you can think of your hundreds chart. And so if we're at 75, where would you go next? We would go to 80, right? Well, all we have to do is remember that it's not just 75, it's 175. So just like we would go from 75 to 80, we can go from 175 to 180. So then where would we go next? Well, if we're at 180, we would go think about what would come after 85. Think about what would come after 80, and I know that 85 comes after 80, and then I just need to remember that there is still a 100 in front of that. Okay, now I want you to keep going, and I want you to think about what happens once we get up to 95 and higher. Think about where we're going to go next. Okay, so give that a try. The number word for 10, I know you guys can do that one on your own, so I'll let you do that. We have a story problem. There were 11 children at the park, then 7 left. How many children are still at the park? So let's think about this. If there were 11 to begin with, and then 7 of them left, would we be adding or subtracting? Well, when somebody leaves, they go away. So we're going to take those 7 children away. So there's a number model to kind of help you, and you can go ahead and fill in your answer. Now, here we're going to write the missing numbers. So we want to think of this like a number grid. Now, our number grids don't go up into the 500s, but I can remember some strategies when working with a number grid. I know that when I am going from left to right, I'm adding or subtracting 1. So if I'm at 565, I need to think, what would be 1 more than 565? Well, I know 1 more than 65 is 66. So I know that 1 more than 565 will be 566. Okay, now when we're going up and down, who remembers what we're doing? Each jump is doing what? Well, it depends. If we're starting up here and going down, each jump would be adding 10. But if we need to make a jump up, we're not going to be adding 10. We're going to be doing what? We're going to be subtracting 10. So I need to think. My tens place is going to change. And if I'm taking away 10, is that tens place going to get bigger or smaller? Well, I know that it's going to get smaller because I'm taking it away. So my hundreds place will stay the same, and my ones place will stay the same. And I know that my tens place needs to get smaller by 1 10. So 1 10 less than 6 tens is 5 tens. So I know that when I go up again, I'm going to need to do the same thing. And then you'll do the same thing over here. Okay? So give that a try. If you're not exactly sure, just go ahead and leave it, and then we can go over it together when we do the answers, okay? And I'm going to leave this as optional. It says, look at problem number 4. Explain how you completed the number grid puzzle. So you could talk about what you did to figure that out, okay? And you can talk about how we know that when we move up, that we are subtracting 10, and so you know that your tens place is going to get smaller by 1. But I'll leave this as optional. You can do it, put a little star, or you don't have to do it. But I'll go ahead and do it just so you can see what an explanation might look like. So I'm going to have you guys go ahead, pause your video now to do your work, and then we'll go over the answers in just a moment. Okay, and welcome back. So we're going to go ahead and go over our answers now. So I'm just going to kind of come in a little bit closer. So we did the first couple numbers together here. We knew that after 75 came 80, so after 175 would come 180. And then we knew that 185 came next, so after 185, 190, 195. Now this is where it gets kind of tricky. Well, after just 95, I know I have 100, right? But I've already got 100. So I know after 95, I'm going to have to jump up to my next 100, which would be 200, okay? And then when I continue on, it's kind of like I'm starting at 0, and I know that in my ones place, because we're counting by 5, so if I'm at 200 and I go up 5 more, it will be 205, and this is how we write that. So here's our number word for 10. Now we had drawn a number model, written a number model, I suppose, to help us. So when I do 11 minus 7, because there were 11 children at the park and 7 of them left, I know that there's going to be 4. Okay, so here was our number grid, okay? So we kind of did a little bit we talked about how going left to right, we know we're adding or subtracting 1. So we started here and we added 1, which gave us 566. But then we talked about how when we need to make a jump up on the number grid, we're subtracting 10. So we know that our hundreds place stayed the same and our ones place stayed the same. Only our tens place was changing, and our tens place got smaller by 1. So when I needed to make that next jump up, again, hundreds place and ones place stays the same. Only my tens place changed, and I was at 5 here, and it got smaller by 1, so we had 4 here. So then over here, I had to kind of work backwards. I was at 565. Well, if I just imagine that it's 65, I know that before 65 is 64, but I still need that 500. And then before 64 would be 63, so I've got 563. Now, just like I did over here, I know each time I jump up, my tens place needs to get smaller by 1 because I'm subtracting 10. So here I had a 6, I went up to 5, just like I did over here. And if you imagine if this kept going, it would be on the same row on the number grid. So all of my numbers here would have the 5 in the tens place. So then when I jump up again, I know my tens place is getting smaller by 1, so I have 543 here. Okay, so if you need to draw these little arrows to remind yourself what to do. Now remember, if you're here and you're going down, we would need to be adding 10. Okay, but the number that we started with was down here, so we had to move up, so I was subtracting 10. And then down here, I said that this one was optional, but I just, as an explanation, I said, I know when you move side to side, you add or subtract 1, which is what we did here. I know when you jump up 1 box, you subtract 10, so that is what I did. So that's just a bit of an explanation for how we would have completed it. So again, this is our math for Tuesday, April 14th. And everybody, I hope you did a great job, and we'll be ready to do the next page in just a little bit.